Don't you dare say don't fly a kite. Go fly a
Go
kite.
fly a kite.
Don't you dare say that.
We're gonna talk about the long-awaited Death on the Nile. Because I know everybody's dying to hear a review of
Death on the Nile.
Death on the Nile. But in all seriousness, we're going to talk about Batman.
Yes, the Batman.
Yay! The funnest movie, and it was so many like quips and jokes and bright colors, and the cast was like just hilarious,
really energetic, boastful.
Yeah, very
colorful.
boastful.
Yeah.
And it was like just sitting at home watching your favorite rom-com with your BFF and a big bucket of popcorn.
Ice cream.
Ice cream, yes, exactly. So we went to see the Batman, and it's probably one of the saddest movies I've seen.
I don't understand when you think it's sad. I wasn't sad at
I think
all.
I think I was sad for how sad Bruce Wayne was.
He wasn't sad. He was mad. He was vengeance.
I mean, I think, well, for me personally, it just put me in kind of a sad headspace because I think it was spot on to people this generation or previous generations who can't get past this traumatic thing that happened, but they are able to shape that thing into their driving force going forward. His parents
Oh, okay. Sorry.
passing. I'm sorry, did I dive too deep too quick?
Yeah, I was
like, sorry.
I was just like, millennials? Gen Z?
So how did you feel about?
Oh, I thought it was great. I think my top like favorite scenes was, of course, like I love Colin Farrell. I thought he was probably the best part of the film. Well, one of the best parts. I'm sorry. Like the whole movie was a lot, but he was great. Of course, no words. Zoe Kravitz, no words. She's, everybody knows. It's Zoe effing Kravitz. Like everybody knows. And I really enjoyed all the twists, especially with the La and the El Rada Alada, because that was super funny. I love the Iceberg Lounge, which I just started watching Harley Quinn.
Oh, that's what you were talking about earlier.
Okay. Like, oh, it's the Iceberg Lounge again.
Okay.
I love that the Batman mobile, Batman mobile. How it looked. They said that they used like a derivative. I mean, not a derivative. That's probably the wrong word. How they used Stephen King's Christine as like its inspiration. Oh, you didn't see that?
I love Christine.
Yeah, because the poster for Christine was just like the car.
Yeah.
So like when you first see it, it's just like this like scary car.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I saw online. I really enjoyed Paul Dano's Riddler, and I didn't see that other movie that people are drawing inspiration from, that he drew inspiration from for this film. So what was it called?
Prisoners, I think.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. Probably Prisoners and Zodiac, I think, are the things that people mention the most.
Oh yeah, Zodiac, because of the
symbols and the ciphers and whatnot.
Okay, yeah,
and I guess just the general dark overtone of it.
Yeah, and the one couple scenes that I really liked was when Bruce wrapped himself up in that weird puffy bat thingy, and I wasn't 100% sure if it was his cape or if it was just like an extra piece of his suit.
I think it's his cape. It looked like he just zipped his cape up around him, and his cape also inflated into like something that would be aerodynamic and that he could fly with. It was really cool. We were both like,
yeah, because so we do this thing where we don't watch trailers. Like we see the very first trailer and we say, oh yeah, and then when trailer 2 and 3 drop, we completely shut them out of our lives. So we go to movie theaters like this, like when we see movies. So I think I did see that second Batman trailer because that was the first one in a year, because they released like the teaser of 2020 DC FanCon. Fandom, yeah. And then the next actual trailer didn't come out for like months. Like months. And I'm pretty sure it was close. Was it close to a year?
I think so.
And then of course the date got pushed because remember, it was supposed to be last year. The movie was supposed to come out in October. Everything's getting pushed. Yeah. DC, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah. So in that trailer that they released, they showed that scene.
You were telling me, yeah.
So when I rewatched the trailers after the movie came out, I was just like, I did see that, and I forgot about it. But I think it was better because when you saw it on screen, it was kind of just like, oh,
I
and
was freaked.
yeah.
I loved it because I'm like, you know, every time we see Batman on screen, I think we were always, we see like the very beginning, and then fast forward to where he's at now. And I think we are still kind of missing that, like, just getting started. And we did get that with Batman Begins, but I think there are some things that were polished in that film that were not polished in this film. And I thought that one of my favorite things that happened was, I think because Batman is always seen with like grappling hooks, you would assume he doesn't have a fear of heights. So at that moment when he finally does zip up that like body parachute thing, right before
what's that
he
thing
does
called
that,
when people
or
fly with the inflatable suits?
I honestly don't know.
Parachute gliding. No idea.
But yeah, he runs up to the top of this building and he stops, you know, because there's nothing, you know, for him to step out on. And I like that moment because he wasn't always this person who had, you know, seemingly had overcome his fear of really high places.
And fear.
And fear, because when we saw the Batman in The Dark Knight go get Lau, he was on top of that building and he jumped and flew around. No fear there, but we saw the fear here. Yeah, it was very different. It was, I think it's easy to get a lot of recycled things when you
especially
the same characters.
Batman, how it's been
very little
done.
time in between. You know, very little time in between when we're seeing this character come back to the screen. I think.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
And so it's
5, but
it's still a
we
fresh take.
We didn't get an origin story with Batfleck, except for that scene where we saw his parents die, which was Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen, right? Yeah. So we didn't get like a year 1 story, which is what everyone keeps saying. That like that's what this, you know, that's what the story.
I mean, the film overall was great. It's a film that pulls you in. It's a mystery. You're going along for the ride. You want to solve it just as badly as Batman does, just as badly as Gordon does, just as badly, I think as badly as Alfred does. You feel it when Catwoman just wants to avenge her friend, find her friend, and then avenge her friend. And that moment where she captures Kenzie and they're on the roof.
Yeah.
And Batman shows up with Gordon. Like, you can just see like that hurt. You feel that hurt. That movie was
that was rough too when they were like before the car chase scene and she saw the dead body of Annika. That was really sad because she was there for money and then like that was her dead friend or girlfriend.
Girlfriend, I think.
The car chase, I forgot.
But the car chase that happened afterwards, sick.
Sick.
It was sick. Yeah, it was awesome. I just liked it a lot. It was perfectly paced, played out. It had a great payoff, and all of the shots were great.
But see, that's another thing. I really wish that wasn't in the trailer too, because when
when he shoots through the fire.
When he shoots through the fire and then he's upside down and he's walking and they use that for the trailer. And like it was like, oh, we know how this car chase is gonna end, but it was still like interesting and like.
Do you think they would have a harder time getting butts in seats if they just showed the boring parts of butts? Do you think they'd have a hard time getting butts in seats if it were just showing not necessarily boring parts, but the parts that don't show so much action? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so again, that's a focus group thing. That's directors things. That's editors.
Yeah.
People who actually make trailers. That big voice movie guy. One more thing that I really liked was when the police station with Gordon and Batman, when he was trying to get him out of the building, but they had to pretend like they were like having a
Yeah.
horrible conversation. And I love the head movement of Gordon with these. Yeah, I love that. It's very 90s cop show.
Yeah.
I love that. And then of course when he punches them in the face, and then when he sees them later, and he said, I thought you were gonna pull your punch. He was like, I did. That was really beautiful.
Hilarious.
Also, the delivery at the very beginning when he finds the thumb in the car, and he like how he looks, and he's like, and Gordon's like, what? And he's like, thumb drive. Like that really killed me. And the pacing and like how his voice, matched the scene.
Mhm.
Also, I guess he was more of like in the Batman sense that he doesn't change his voice like Christian Bale did. Well, did you notice anything?
I mean, I felt like he did a little. I felt like there was a little more aggression and a little more. There was a voice change, but I don't think it was as punctuated, which is probably something he'll grow into. He probably doesn't see the need for it now because he probably thinks he's being very careful, which he is. I think. I think he's doing a very good job. And even though I saw him, like I said, I had mentioned it to you. So we saw him at the beginning putting his costume on in a bathroom, but it still didn't click to me until several scenes later that he is wearing his costume under his, his like regular clothes the entire time.
Which
Those
means
big
he must
baggy
be
clothes.
hot
and sweaty,
wet, and like
just
disgusting.
wet. Yeah.
So like when Alfred saw him, I bet he smelled him first. Disgusting.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, my conversation is gonna be way deeper.
Go ahead. You go.
Okay. So I was reading some stuff online, and I saw that they didn't care for the whole third act because Riddler had pretty much started to gain followers and pretty much kind of have his own insurrection. And they use that word. So I was wondering, did you feel that way? Because I didn't think about that like at all. I did think about how in this day and age, it's very easy to go online, say something crazy, and have someone say, you know what, I agree with you, crazy person. And then and you notice the different comments saying, this is where to get a jacket, this is where to get rifles, this is where to get all that stuff. Like those conversations are really on the internet. But I wasn't really under the impression that it was more of like I don't hate the word insurrection because of what happened, but that type thing. But that was just one person's opinion on the entire third act. Like he had minions pretty much at the end to do his bidding.
For me, I personally didn't think of that particular incident when I was watching the movie. I don't know how to talk about it. I think when we go see movies that we want grounded in realism, it would be foolish for us to say that, oh, this is complete fiction. It has nothing to do with what's happening in our reality. You know what I'm saying? Because our reality is what shapes how these films turn out and how we are affected by these films. I can see why there would be an issue with how the third act went. I didn't have an issue with it because the statement and the theme is still there, that it really doesn't take much for people to follow in the wrong, or just from a different perspective, just follow down a path that would not necessarily be for the better of all people, be for the good of all people.
One world, one people.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't thinking that when I saw the movie. I wasn't. And it wouldn't, if we're gonna say that particularly about this film, then we would have to say that about countless other films that we've seen where the bad guy has recruited a bunch of people to help him along the way. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So,
but you will get caught.
So Batman was moving very slowly, and as we saw, pretty early on, people were shooting at him, and he was not going down. So my assumption is that his suit was very, very heavy, and I'm assuming A, for protection, but also B, so that he can pack a lot of heat when he's punching and kicking. I equated that he was always moving slowly to conserve his energy. And then I was also thinking it probably had, if they're gonna, obviously the League of Shadows happened, so I'm assuming that they probably taught him to like move slower to conserve energy. That was just my thinking.
There was no sexy montage of him working out. like they do in other superhero films.
And you know what? I really thought they were going there when he was pushing that table. I was like, oh, we're getting it. We're getting that sexy
Yeah, and
montage.
it wasn't it. So I
It
like
wasn't
that.
it.
It gives us
So
like
thank you.
kind of like a fake out.
Yeah, thank you for that fake out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The contact was really cool.
Yes.
And
him walking super slow everywhere, and
Yeah.
you're thinking it's just him like trying to be intimidating, which I'm 100% sure
Mhm.
that's his MO. But then you realize he's actually just like recording everything with his eyeballs. I love that.
Mhm.
And especially a year one someone would have, because you would need a body cam, but not probably on your body.
Mhm. Especially if he's taking a lot of hits.
Yeah, of course, because that
Mhm.
one just a couple punches and it's gone. But hopefully he has the thing over his face, and hopefully he's not taking too many hits to the eye. So yeah, just one of the really cool like technology things that I like from this film.
I like that a lot. And I liked how raw everything was. I liked that the Batcave wasn't something that was necessarily built by him, or, you know, an actual cave under, what was it, under his house. And
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was underneath his yeah, I just got a bug bite.
it looked like it was under Wayne Tower. So Wayne Tower used to have its own stop, it looks like.
Yeah.
But his mansion would have to be somewhere nearby or attached to it.
Underground?
I don't know. But yeah, we just liked how raw everything was. And I liked when he was giving the contact to Selena, and like he had to like fiddle with all these cables and wires
Yeah.
and the knobs to get the frequency right.
And I love that because it's like when it's in real time
Mhm.
and trying to work out that kind of crap you kind of don't see in other films.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, but wear this and it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, so obviously this was a detective movie. You'd say, yes. But when they first encountered the photos of Mitchell and Annika walking out of the club, the information that was in the photo was so important that it seemed like it didn't register to Batman nor Gordon to think of maybe who took the photo or where the photo was taken.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was something, you know, obviously it's year two, so that's something they probably, you know, Batman maybe overlooked. Who, not maybe who, but where the photo was coming from. But I guess at that angle, you would assume it was probably somebody hiding out on the roof. You wouldn't assume that it was somebody living.
Well, when I first, whenever I see like gritty photos like that of like trying to catch politicians, I immediately think journalists.
Okay. So they wouldn't think it's somebody. They wouldn't think the person involved, really. They're probably just thinking somebody got some photos.
Somebody got some photos and they're trying to like probably make some money off of them to sell them. The
other thing I talked about how I liked how everything looked so raw and imperfect, and the other thing I really liked was the bat signal itself. You can tell it was like the slats of the spotlight were smashed out, and the bat symbol itself was imperfect. It was kind of jagged on the one side, so I really liked that too. And it didn't try to juggle between the identity of Bruce Wayne and Batman. It was just strictly Batman. And maybe the little bit of Bruce that came to light was when he went to the funeral, but that Bruce quickly faded back away as soon as it seemed like there was danger. Yeah.
So I do have a quick question about the ending. So at the end where Bruce is confronting Edward Riddler, I'm sorry, when the Batman was confronting the Riddler in jail, or I'm assuming Arkham Asylum, correct? The scene where he just kept saying Bruce Wayne, and then he's the kid we never got. And someone pointed out that was Riddler saying that he doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, saying because he said he instead of you're the one I never got. So someone mentioned that to me, whereas when I was watching, I was just like, "Ah, shit!" Like
I thought he knew.
Like I was like, he knows he's Bruce. Like this is gonna be a whole other thing. But someone said that, so now I'm a little bit conflicted on if he actually did know or if he didn't, and he was just kind of saying, "Bruce Wayne, we got to take down that house." You want to know why? Because he was an orphan who had maids and servants and didn't have to go live anywhere else because he was rich.
So basically, he assumed Batman was just a person who popped up as a vigilante, and he thought he and him were on the same side of trying to fix the city.
Yeah.
And he was trying to fix the city from what actually caused the city to go downhill as opposed to, and you know what? this was a villain. This story, this particular uncovering of what happened with Wayne and the renewal fund and the orphanage and everything. This was something that needed to happen so that Batman would become the Batman that he needed to be, to become the Batman that Gotham deserves.
Mhm.
Yes. Which actually doesn't happen. I did actually really like the end when he jumped on that wire to cut it and died for a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't really know what was happening in that scene because I was like, who cares? Like, no, I saw the thing and I was just, it didn't click, and I was just like, all
I
right.
was like, dang, okay.
No, not that part. Not that part.
Just like, all right, bye.
But I think it just took me a while to figure out what was happening. And then of course, that was right after he injected himself with like adrenaline, which apparently on internet it's venom. So I need to figure out like how that's a thing.
We don't know what that is.
Yeah, so I really don't read DC, and don't judge me for that. But also, I've been really trying to read more, but I don't really read DC, so I have no idea what this Venom is. And in my head, because I watch so much of, don't judge me again, the Arrowverse on CW, that in my brain, I was just like, it's Mirakuru serum. And Mirakuru serum is basically the super soldier serum from Marvel, but on Arrow that Slade had, and then he was on it when he killed Arrow's mom, and it made him just like pretty much go crazy. So that's what I was thinking.
So
it was like if he kept doping himself up with super soldier serum.
Okay.
And it like made his brain like he just became like he got fixated on one person. So kind of like Steve and Peggy. He got fixated on one person, he was fixated on a woman. And he just,
oh my God. Is that the result of why Steve was so, because I mean several hundred years had passed, right?
Not several hundred,
several decades.
100 years.
Several decades had passed.
I read The Hobbit. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't really think about that.
That's interesting. Yeah. So do you think that even though it wasn't explicitly said, but do you think any of the cops or anybody who was watching the interrogation are going to piece together that Batman is Bruce Wayne? Just from that, if you were looking at that information, would you make that connection?
Where?
Looking at the remember when they went to Edward's apartment and he had like a picture of Bruce Wayne and it said like, I know who you really are or something, and then there was like a picture of, I think there was a picture of Batman or something close by. And then when Batman showed up to the interrogation, he said Bruce Wayne first, right? That was the first thing he said.
I thought he was just saying like, I knew you'd come or something.
Yeah,
something weird like that.
Do you feel like, so to me, I'm still under the impression that the Riddler knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Okay.
So to me, I feel like he's outing him in that scene without necessarily pointing the finger. He's just saying the name. So do you think if a cop were to watch that interrogation, because he did keep looking up at that camera, if he were to watch that interrogation, would that cop be like, is that Bruce Wayne? You know what I'm saying?
And also it would make more sense because now I think, people were saying, and by people I mean Twitter, is that this is before he knew he had to be two people, because he just wanted to be Batman. So so Bruce Wayne not actually having an identity is more skeptical. I mean, more, what's the word?
I don't know.
More, I want to say P, but that's right.
More what?
Like a P word.
Appealing?
No, whatever. So now that Steve, so now that he now knows he has to probably have his, his feet has walk in two worlds, which is what everybody says. That in the next film, maybe we'll see more of like the young, rich, not young. Well, yeah, he's 35. That's young. Young, rich, 35-year-old, like playboy type thing. If they want to go that route to give Bruce Wayne an identity, so he's not, being considered as being a vigilante that runs around at night.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Did anything I said just make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that we needed a Joker stinger?
No.
Do Do you
I
think we needed
love-
a stinger at all, or do you think they just should have put him in Arkham and left it at that?
I,
Like, maybe
I love
his-
stingers.
yeah.
I love them. They're great
Mhm.
because it always gets me even more excited about what's coming, and then I can jump in and start reading a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
And I like to read about stuff like this,
Mhm.
so I love stingers. Joker, I mean, I think him and Harley Quinn, I'm over it, and I don't want to be that person, but like I said, I don't really read DC. I don't know how like prominent they are in the comics, which seems like a lot because they're everywhere. Like there's been, Heath Ledger, then Jared Leto, then Joaquin Phoenix, and it's right? Joaquin
Mhm.
Phoenix, yeah, right. And then of course we have all the different Jokers. We have the Joker and Harley Quinn. I think there's now a new one on Batwoman, and there was one on Gotham. So I just think for me, I'm over the Joker and I'm over like the whole thing. And which I think it was okay to have the stinger. Like I love stingers, like I already mentioned, but to have Joker was kind of like blah for me. But then I thought maybe, Matt Reeves just put him there to say, like, hey, I'm not going to give you Joker because he's already in Arkham. Like he's already in Arkham, so I'm going to give you literally any other villain that that they have. And if they really end up doing a Doctor Freeze next movie, I would be just to the moon. Like
Okay.
that would be the best.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Only if they bring back Vivica A. Fox, though.
The greatest Batman movie ever made.
But there were a lot of the shots in the film were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I
Really
think
good
it's
cinematography.
Yeah, and it's not a movie that you can see once. You definitely have to see it more than once because there are things happening that you kind of just forget about, that you forget you saw, I think,
Mhm.
towards the beginning that kind of have a little bit of a callback later on, which I really enjoyed. And I know that like once it's streaming, I'm gonna watch it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I can put that in my roster of like long movies that I can put on my homework days. So
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
did see a lot of people complaining that the movie was like too long, and I didn't feel like it was too long. I just thought it was a story that had a lot of parts to unravel. And I think that there's some movies that when you see a movie, you're like, this is too long.
mhm.
But I did
This
feel
wasn't
that
one of
way
those.
about the Batman.
This wasn't one of those.
Oh, missed opportunity to just have freaking Cillian Murphy come out and just say the Batman. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
From Batman Begins? Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Just thought about it.
As Scarecrow, or
Just how funny would that be?
oh, okay,
Because I remember that scene from the commercial,
yeah,
from the trailer for the Batman Begins.
yeah.
And then when it happened in the movie, I was just like, why does this deliveries just sound so silly? Like he sounded so campy.
Yeah.
But maybe it was all the drugs. Because was he on drugs in Batman
At
Begins?
that moment,
Or was he just like infiltrating the water supply?
he gets drugged, but later on, I think.
Yes.
Although, yeah, he gets drugged, but later on. This has nothing to do with the movies or the movie itself, but 3 of the actors that were in the movie were from the show, the HBO series Chernobyl. So if you haven't seen Chernobyl, watch Chernobyl on HBO. It's great. How did you feel about our new Gordon, our new Alfred, our new Catwoman? Anything?
No quarrels.
Yeah, they were all great.
What is it? In 2019, all those people were announced? Because, like I said, this movie got
Yeah.
put on hold like
Yeah.
twice for COVID.
Yeah, and they were all great.
Yeah. So,
They all did a wonderful job.
yeah, the entire cast.
I hope. I mean, I was so glad to see Alfred was still alive because I was
Yeah.
definitely in tears during that moment. I was like, no.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually a pretty sad scene.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely teared up at the end with the flare.
Yeah. Me
I was
too.
just like, oh, the tears.
because now he was a shepherd, and he could guide. He knew he needed to be more for the city of Gotham, and not just a shadowy figure beating up bad guys.
Yeah. I also.
And I think, and I want to say, I wonder if in that moment, because actually no, he says it no in the opening credits during the narration. I think he asked himself during his narration, was he making a difference? And I think at that moment where he's leaving people in the, with the flare, it's like this is him making a difference now.
Mhm.
This is how he can make a difference.
Yeah. There's a lot of shots that they used of just him and his outfit kind of like looking around. And I know like the end had that scene of him looking up. I'm assuming at the camera or helicopter,
The
whoever
helicopter,
was
I think.
swirling around him. And then even the scene with Falcone when he kind of just like looked very like, I'm super uncomfortable. I don't want to have this conversation, but they were still just like the blank stares
Yeah.
because it's probably like a processing thing. And I like that too.
I was shocked that they brought a neck bomb into this. I'm shocked that it went off. That was dark.
Oh, with Peter Sarsgaard?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, oh, he'll save him. It's Peter Sarsgaard.
Mhm. Oh, and the weird continuity that Peter Sarsgaard is actually married to Maggie Gyllenhaal in real life, and Maggie Gyllenhaal played Rachel in The Dark Knight. In The Dark Knight Rises. Wait, she died in The Dark Knight, didn't she? Did she just show up and die because he killed her?
Yep.
Dang, she was only in one movie. Rachel. Yeah. I just thought it was sweet. They could be like, friends.
So, I will say this thing, and I'll probably like upset some people, but when I was watching Batman fighting, it made me think about Dawn of Justice when Batman was fighting in the warehouse when he was going to save Martha, and it made me sadder that we did not get to see the Ben Affleck directed film and then the Matt Reeves directed Batfleck film. So I know that ship has come and gone, but it made me wish I had gotten to see a standalone film before all of the bad. I will. One of the things I wanted to say about Gordon, and I think I said this already, like you could feel Batman's sadness, you could feel that Alfred really loved Bruce. You could feel Catwoman's pain at finding out, at her friend being kidnapped and her friend being found dead. You could also feel Gordon at his sincerity at being a good cop, and you could also feel that like sadness in his revelation of finding out that his own team members were dirty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt that.
Yeah. I actually really liked that cop that was kind of with Gordon most of the film with the mustache who was in the same office.
Yeah.
For some odd reason, he reminded me of a dancer.
Thanks, and we will catch you on